Here are the top stories for today, August 1, 2019. President Duterte increases the reward for the killers of 4 policemen in Negros Oriental. Ships from China are urged not to turn off their trackers and IDs when passing through Philippine territory. The PNP protests the labeling of the Philippines by a Britain-based watchdog as the most dangerous place for environmental activists. And Itbay at Batanes is hit again by a strong earthquake.
Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Sectoral groups in Negros Oriental have joined efforts to maintain peace and order amid the spate of violence there. This as President Rodrigo Duterte increased the reward money for the speedy arrest of the killers of 4 policemen in the province. Miguel Hill has the story.
President Rodrigo Duterte has raised the reward money for the capture, dead or alive, of killers of 4 policemen in Ayungon, Negros Oriental to 5 million pesos, along with 100,000 pesos for every accessory in the killings. In a statement this morning, Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo said the President has also issued a stern warning to the members of the New People's Army in Negros that he will use his emergency powers under the Constitution to quell the lawless violence engulfing the island, as well as to crush all forms of threats aimed at destroying the government. Meanwhile, leaders from different sectors in Negros Oriental signed on Wednesday a manifesto of solidarity to end the recent spate of killings in the province. More than 100 participants at the event initiated by the Diocese of Dumaguete made their respective commitments and recommendations on how to help the provincial government achieve a holistic approach to end the violence prevailing in Negros Oriental. Amid the probe into the series of killings in Negros Oriental, Police Provincial Director Colonel Raul Takaka has been relieved from his position to give way to an impartial probe on possible lapses by his administration. General Oscar Albayalde designated Colonel Angelito Dumanging Deputy Regional Director for Operations of the Police, Regional Office 7, as concurrent officer in charge of the Negros Oriental Police Provincial Office. He also ordered the deployment of more than 300 SAF troops to Negros Island to augment local police units in anti-criminality and internal security operations, saying that the local communist rebels are responsible for the series of killings. The PNP assures the public that the peace and order situation in Negros Oriental is under control and our police units there remain on full alert to prevent the occurrence of crimes. Meanwhile, the Armed Forces of the Philippines said it has not proposed a declaration of martial law in Negros Oriental following a sudden spate of violence in the province. However, the AFP says it is willing to consult with local chief executives and look at the situation on the ground and assess if there is a basis for the proposal. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Miguel Hill.
The Department of National Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana believes that China will keep its word on not firing the proverbial first shot amid tensions in the West Philippine Sea. In a radio interview with DZBB on Wednesday, Lorenzana said China will not engage in any trouble in the West Philippine Sea, citing the explanation of Ambassador Zhao Jinhua that as 85% of China's fuel oil from the Middle East passes through the said waterway. Lorenzana said that such pronouncements are very comforting as this means that China won't act aggressively. Meanwhile, National Secretary Advisor Secretary Hermogenes Esperon said the Philippines have not lost an island in the West Philippine Sea, contrary to the claim of Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio. Carpio claims that the Philippines lost Sandy Cay to China during the present administration.
After 3 years of Duterte administration, we have not lost an island. Marami kasi nagsasabi na ipinamigay na natin ang West Philippines. Hindi. We have even improved our positions there. Any country can say that we will not fire the first shot. Diba? Who will fire the first shot? If you do, if you're a criminal, then you immediately admit to the guilt.
Meanwhile, DND Secretary Delfin Lorenzana on Tuesday requested all Chinese naval vessels to keep their Automatic Identification System, or AIS, turned on while passing through Philippine waters. Lorenzana made this request to the Chinese government after China's sole aircraft carrier, the Liaoning, passed Cebu Strait last month without prior knowledge of Philippine authorities. He said these Chinese ships apparently turned off their AIS as they do not want to be seen or detected. However, even if they have turned off their AIS, they can still be spotted in the daylight by spotters or lookouts. Chinese Ambassador Zhao Jinhua responded to Lorenzana's concern, saying he will request that anytime these Chinese ships pass by our territorial waters. Malacanang says it has no intention of asking Health Secretary Francisco Duque III to take a leave amid a looming Senate investigation against him. Senator Richard Gordon earlier said that the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee may start its probe into the alleged conflict of interest involving Duque next week. Duque was accused of being involved in the 2016 and 2017 government contracts awarded to the family-owned Doctors Pharmaceuticals Incorporated. On Tuesday, Panelo said the graft and plunder complaints against Duque will be subject to a serious investigation by the Office of the President. But despite the allegations, he maintained that Duterte still trusts Duque and he is presumed innocent until proven otherwise. Students in 2 universities in Manila will now receive a 1,000 peso monthly allowance. And informal settlers in Intramuros will soon be relocated. More on this from Janice Cave.
Manila Mayor Isko Moreno on Wednesday signed an ordinance granting 1,000 peso monthly allowance for students of pamantasan ng lungsod ng Maynila and the Universidad de Manila. The ordinance stressed the monthly allowance would allow them to continue their education despite hardships and struggles of their families. Meanwhile, Intramuros administration is eyeing a total of 410 million pesos for the relocation of at least 500 informal settlers in the walled city. IA Administrator Attorney Guillermo Acido said they target to relocate the first 174 informal settlers by the first quarter of next year, as the first batch already visited relocation sites in Tanza and Silang, Cavite. In other news, the Department of Foreign Affairs on Wednesday recommended the removal of visa upon arrival privilege for foreigners. Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. said the proposal came following the remarks of National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon Jr. that the influx of undocumented foreigners to Manila pose a possible security threat to the country. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Still to come, the PNP protests the labeling of the Philippines by a Britain-based watchdog as the most dangerous place for environmental activists. The DSWD releases emergency shelter aid for residents in Pampanga who lost their homes to an earthquake last April. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
War broke out in Marawi, and when the ISIS were dominant, were able to claim certain areas of Marawi, they planted ordnances, landmines, and you just can't build over land that has landmines, that has unexploded ordnances. You'll have to clear that first before you can build structures. Based on the redevelopment plan of the government, it'll take 4 years. You will see high-rise building going up. You will see parks constructed. You will see public places. You will see vital installations being constructed. We will be able to witness the rebuilding of Marawi starting this November.
The Philippine National Police on Wednesday refuted a Britain-based watchdog claims alleging that the Philippines is the most dangerous place for land and environmental activists. According to the human rights group called Global Witness, the Philippines was among the top 10 deadliest countries in the world for people who are protecting their land or environment. PNP Chief General Oscar Albayalde said the PNP takes strong exception to the labeling done by Global Witness, saying that the land disputes have always been a perennial source of conflict among people, and this has been among several motives behind some homicides investigated by the PNP. Albayalde said that the activities of the local communist movement in the countryside is also a factor in this armed conflict over land rights, and many tribal leaders, community officials, and government security forces have died protecting land rights against insurgents who want to place these communities under their control. Education Assistant Secretary Alberto Escobarte says the decision to lift the suspension or even total revocation of the license to operate of the controversial Salugpungan schools rests solely on the Department of Education in Davao Region. Escobarte says DepEd Secretary Leonor Briones has already granted the Regional DepEd Office its jurisdiction and authority to decide on the case. On July 22nd, the extended deadline for the show cause order was granted to the Salugpungan school administrators to answer the allegations made by National Security Advisor Secretary Hermogenes Esperon. Based on the testimonies of former Salugpungan students and teachers, Esperon said these schools are being used by the Communist New People's Army or NPA as training and recruitment centers. Esperon's findings prompted DepEd 11 to suspend 55 Salugpungan schools in Region 11 alone. Escobarte assured that the evidence against the Salugpungan schools are being examined by a committee whose findings will become the basis for the DepEd 11 decision, and the ruling will come out anytime soon. Senator Panfilo Lacson on Wednesday said President Rodrigo Duterte has the executive prerogative to choose appointees that he feels can effectively support the policies and programs of the administration. Lacson made the statement in reaction to President Duterte's appointment of several retired military officials to key government posts, the latest of whom are retired Lieutenant General Emmanuel Salamat and retired Police General Reynaldo Velasco as members of the MWSS Board of Trustees. Lacson says that these appointees would fall short and fail to deliver. The ultimate responsibility lies in the President, who will be accountable to the people. The senator, however, assured that the check and balance with regard to the President's appointing power are available, as the appointment of cabinet members is still subject to confirmation by the Commission on Appointments. Salamat and Velasco's appointment papers were signed over the weekend. Also belonging to Duterte's list of top military appointees include Information and Communications Technology Secretary Gringo Honasan, Environment Secretary Roy Simatu, Interior and Local Government Secretary Eduardo Año, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, and Social Welfare Secretary Rolando Bautista, among others. Presidential Communications Operations Office Secretary Martin Andanar on Tuesday called on lawmakers for the swift passage of the Freedom of Information Bill. Andanar said that Executive Order Number 2, Series of 2016, or the FOI program, should be passed and enacted into law to establish a completely open and transparent government. He also encouraged stakeholders to join the government in lobbying for the prompt passage of the FOI bill, which was one of the cornerstones of the Duterte administration in fighting corruption. The FOI bill made it to the first list of priority measures for the first 3 regular sessions of the current Congress. Quake victims in Pampanga can now claim their assistance benefit from DSWD, and LTO in Zamboanga is holding a search for outstanding and disciplined drivers. More on this from Benjo Bondoc.
In Pampanga, the Department of Social Welfare and Development on Wednesday started to release the emergency shelter assistance to those whose houses were either partially or totally damaged by the 6.1 magnitude earthquake last April 22. A total of 33,000 pesos was provided for each earthquake victim, with totally damaged house, and 11,500 pesos for partially damaged house. In Eastern Visayas, the Department of Labor and Employment Regional Office continues its drive against labor-only contracting and end-of-contract schemes even after President Rodrigo Duterte vetoed the Security of Tenure Bill. According to DOLE Regional Director Yaya Senti, they are keeping their target this year as they come up with a balanced version of the bill to be refiled in the Senate and House of Representatives. As of June 30, about 1,140 workers in the private sector have been regularized, which accounts for 13% of the 9,000 targeted employees this year. In Zamboanga, the Land Transportation Office will spearhead the search for Chuper ng Buhay Ko to give recognition to outstanding and disciplined drivers. According to LTO, the search aims to increase awareness on road safety in a bid to lessen accidents. This will also help enhance driving skills and instill traffic discipline. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Bench Bondo.
Up next, Itbayat Batanes is hit again by a strong earthquake. The SEC warns the public against investing in Senco and Brendel crews due to suspected fraudulent activities. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
For the first time in history, we exceeded 5% of GDP in infrastructure spending. Last year, matagal na natin goal ito. This has been a goal of the Philippines for a long time, to breach the 5% level of spending on infrastructure. And for the first time in history, we did that in 2018. Wow. This is double the average spending over the last 50 years. We expect to bring this up further to 7% of GDP by 2022. Infrastructure modernization will continue to provide a strong stimulus to keep our growth rate high into the foreseeable future. It's like increasing the displacement of your car's engine. Now, it's like upgrading the engine from, let's say, 1-liter engine to a 3-liter engine. When we invest in infrastructure and in our people, we are increasing the capacity of the economy to grow and to grow at a faster clip. So from 6 to 7%, which is our target for this year, if we keep investing in these things, in the right things like infrastructure and a world-class workforce, we can grow at 7 to 8%.
Batanes was rocked this morning by a magnitude 4 aftershock, even as the province is still reeling from the quakes that hit over the weekend. More on this from Joyce Kudis.
Another strong earthquake shook Itbayat, Batanes this morning, days after the quake that claimed 9 lives and injured several others. It was also felt in town at intensity 4. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology said the magnitude 4 quake was an aftershock of the July 27 trembler. No tsunami alert has been raised and no damage is expected. Meanwhile, the Department of Health has deployed a mental health and psychosocial team to Itbayat, Batanes. A trauma team from the Cagayan Valley Medical Center was also deployed on Sunday. In other news, the Chinese Embassy in Manila is donating 10 million peso humanitarian aid for quake-hit Batanes. The Chinese government also extended its sympathy to the affected families while hoping for them to return to their normal lives. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Joyce Kudis.
Whistleblower Peter Jomel Advincula, also known as Bicoy, has been granted temporary liberty after posting bail before the Quezon City Regional Trial Court on Wednesday. In an order dated July 31st, RTC Branch 220 Judge Jose Paneda approved Advincula's cash bond of 10,000 pesos for his provisional liberty and ordered the Philippine National Police Criminal Investigation and Detection Group to release him unless he is being detained for some other lawful cause. The bail was in connection with charges of violation of Republic Act number 10175 or the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. Advincula is also a primary witness and respondent in the charge of sedition, inciting to sedition, among other charges filed by the CIDG. In business, the country's inflation rate is expected to hit between 2 to 2.8% due to lower prices of rice and cooking gas in July 2019. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas considers the recent appreciation of the peso against the greenback and the drop in power rates to slow down the inflation rate. It noted that the increase in the price of fuel and food items could counter the effect of the said factors. Last June, inflation went back to its downward path when it slowed to 2.7% after rising to 3.2% in May. The Securities and Exchange Commission warns the public against investing in Centco World Corporation and its purported parent, Brendel Cruz Holdings Incorporated. In an advisory posted on Wednesday, the Commission noted that the two corporations have not secured a secondary license to solicit investments from the public. It has advised the public to exercise caution in dealing with anyone soliciting investments or recruiting investors. Under its investment scheme, Centco entices the public to buy beauty products in exchange for rewards equivalent to 400% of the purchase price. Centco and Brendel Cruz Holdings add to at least 42 investment schemes earlier flagged by the SEC this year. In our foreign news, North Korea fired multiple unidentified projectiles early on Wednesday. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, or JCS, reports that the projectiles were launched from the Hodo Peninsula in South Hamgyong Province on North Korea's east coast. The JCS is said to be monitoring the situation in case of additional launches and maintaining a readiness posture. Japan's Defense Ministry is currently collecting and analyzing information pertaining to the said launches. In Spain, railway workers went on a general strike on Wednesday that led to the cancellation of 707 trains across the country. The General Confederation of Labor Union is protesting against the state railway company Renfe over lack of employees, low wages, and long working hours. The railway workers demand structural reforms. The strike affected a large number of passengers, especially in populous cities like Madrid and Barcelona. In our health news, studies show how blueberry consumption contributes to healthy aging. In the latest release of the Gerontological Society of America, blueberry ranks highest in antioxidant activity compared with many other popular fruits. It says consuming 200 grams or about 1 cup of blueberries a day can improve blood vessel function and decrease systolic blood pressure. Eating blueberries is also said to improve memory in children and older adults. And in our weather update, a low-pressure area was estimated at 460 kilometers east of Vira, Catanduanes as of 3 a.m. today. Pangasinan, Zambales, Bataan, Bicol region, Eastern Visayas, Caraga, and Davao region will experience cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms due to the predicted habagat, while Metro Manila and the rest of the country will experience partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers and thunderstorms. Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories.
President Duterte increases the reward for the killers of 4 policemen in Negros Oriental. Ships from China are urged not to turn off their trackers and IDs when passing through Philippine territory. The PNP protests the labeling of the Philippines by a Britain-based watchdog as the most dangerous place for environmental activists. And Itbayat Batanes is hit again by a strong earthquake.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day.